Well, welcome. It's another Thursday night edition of Thursday Night Sports Talk on the AirNetwork.net. It's Greg Banks with you tonight in the studio. Chad States in Huntington. Hopefully soon, Dave Shannon joining us from Altoona, and Jimmy Tide, the fantasy football guy, all joining us tonight here on the AirNetwork.net. What an exciting week it was in sports all the way around in Pennsylvania this week. All kinds of stuff to talk about, the Pirates. We've got even the Penguins to talk about this evening. So we'll get started with Chad on the line with us. Hey, Chad, what's happening? And congratulations to those Buccos, eh?
Hey, nice job by the Pirates. They made the postseason for the second year in a row.
Now, you were
all good news coming out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, all good news. You know, and Dave was sort of a naysayer a few weeks ago, but there you are. You stuck to your guns, and you said that the Pirates would clinch.
3 weeks ago, Dave said they're done.
Right.
Put them in the bag. So, Dave, if you're out there, they're not done. Remember last week I guaranteed that they would make the playoffs, say it was done and over, and honestly that came true. One, the Pirates are playing great baseball. Let's face it. And I think they're playing better since Pedro Alvarez has been on DL.
Right.
If that's any indication as to what he's really meant to that team, it's not been a lot because they gained leadership by getting Harrison out there every day. Playing a spot somewhere every day. But, when you look at what's happened around them, the Atlanta Braves have completely collapsed. And I had seen that a week before whenever they're playing the Nationals. That just was not the formation of a good Major League Baseball team at that point in time. And Milwaukee had been on a great slide as well. So the fact that the Pirates are there are twofold. One, everybody else just kind of melted away from them.
Right.
But two, they rose to the occasion. I mean, they have played outstanding baseball. I think they're winners of 13 of their last 16 ball games at this point in time.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to get into the postseason. A good run down towards the end that gains your confidence heading into either a one-game playoff, which looks like they might be headed to,
right,
or a five-game playoff. If they continue going down here and St. Louis happens to melt away, they could be fighting for a Central Division title.
Well, let me ask you about that St. Louis thing because, there was sort of a letdown my feeling was a little letdown last night after all the celebrations on Tuesday. But having said that, they played a little rough last night, losing that game 6-2. Russell Martin ends up getting injured last night, and things just began to happen. Hold on the line here. Let me see if we can grab Dave and get him on to join us here. Hopefully, we're going to add, here we go. We'll add Dave Shannon now, coming in late to our show tonight. But, hey, Dave, how you doing?
Good evening, Greg.
Good evening.
Chad.
Hey, Dave, how are you?
All right, how you doing, man?
Doing great.
Hey, we were just talking about the last minute about the Pirates and, of course, some of the scenarios that might happen. And I mentioned, Dave, to Chad, it was a little let down last night after the Tuesday night appearance, of course, with the celebration and all. But nonetheless, one of the things that I might mention is something Chad just mentioned. What if, now just what if, the Cardinals had a little bit of a slide? And maybe we can talk about that among ourselves. You think that'll happen, Dave? That they could slide, and then, of course, the Buccos don't have to go to that one-game playoff?
It's possible. I think the fact that the Pirates, though, are in the position that they are, and with a chance to win the division, may actually inspire the Cardinals enough to really have to finish the season out. Who doesn't want to have that home field advantage, as much of it as you can get over the course of the playoffs? And I think the Cardinals will be geared up for that. They're always, and boy, they're tough to beat there at St. Louis.
Well, what do you think on that, Chad, as far as the Cards? Maybe a downslide?
Well, yeah, no, not really. I think actually they're probably just trying to set things up. The 40-man roster's in play, so they're kind of tossing guys in and out of the lineup and not normally. Plus, they know they're already in the playoffs regardless.
Right.
It just depends on where they're going to get to. So they're probably just setting up who they're going to pitch in whatever postseason game they get, whether it's the wild card or game one of the divisional series. Now, the winner of the Central Division is not going to have a home field advantage in the playoffs.
Okay.
They're going to play the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Right.
So, two of those games are going to be home, but the other three are going to be somewhere else. So there really is no home field advantage when it comes down to that. So, but St. Louis is St. Louis. This is what they do.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
what they're built for.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us, around Pennsylvania are hoping that the Pirates can put a crown on top of this achievement that they did, get another celebration, because let's face it, baseball's a grind,
Yeah.
And I watched some pundits talk about, well, should people really, celebrate getting into a wild card?
Yeah.
Yes. You've played 150 some odd ball games at that point in time. You celebrate whenever you get the chance to. So, let's see what they get. The Pirates get the Cincinnati Reds coming back into town. A team that's not really that good, but St. Louis is playing Arizona, and they're not that good either.
Well, for the benefit of those just tuning in to Thursday Night Sports Talk about the Pirates, of course, clinching a wild card spot, and it will probably come down to a one-game playoff. I think that opens up on Wednesday.
Yes.
Who would they face then on Wednesday? Who are we
right now? At? I think it's going to be, the only reason it's not been declared already is that the Giants have gone into a little bit of a skid.
Although I think the Giants just wrapped it up today, I heard, that they beat the Brewers or something happened today where the Brewers are definitely eliminated, Giants are in. I just heard that an hour ago. I don't know.
That's
it's not surprising.
Go ahead, Chad. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's over. The Giants are into the postseason. So now it's just a matter of whether the Giants or the Pirates have the home field for that one game. Okay. And I still think that's going to play out to be the Pirates.
Okay, let's hope so.
Yeah, one thing that's nice about that, the Pirates have the tiebreaker in that case as well due to the fact that they hold the edge on the season series against San Francisco.
Okay.
And you never know over the course of a season what team that you're going to be playing and what that may mean for the postseason.
Right.
You have to, every series is important. I think out of there were a total of 6 games played between the Pirates and the Giants and the Buccos, 4-2.
Right. Those tickets, by the way, are on sale for Game 1, or that one-game showdown, at least at this point, coming up for Wednesday night. Hey, Russell Martin went down during the game last night, guys, injured. I'm not sure exactly what the extent of the injury was. Will he be back and ready for these playoffs?
I think no matter what, with as far as Russell is concerned, he'll be there no matter what.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, too. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, and I agree with that, too. Russell's a gamer. I've seen him play through a lot of stuff. He will be there.
Yeah, hey, listen, good news, though. Neil Huntington said he will open up the checkbook to keep Russell Martin. He said that today in a press conference, man. I'm excited because I was hoping they would be able to hold on to Martin for next year.
Not hoping. I kind of hold the entire. I hate to be this definite about it.
Yeah.
But I really think that he is the glue.
He's
that
the linchpin. Yep.
Yeah, and hats off to the fans that went to the games in Pittsburgh over the weekend because I saw at 2 of the 3 games, as I recall, maybe even some on Friday too, there were signs all over PNC Park. Sign Russell now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you just don't see that a whole lot from fans. But I'll tell you what, the guy's a fan favorite because he busts his you-know-what.
Yes, he does.
Every night that he's out there. And it means so much to the team, I think, to have a catcher back there. I've seen the team struggle so much. Not having – Jason Kendall was the last catcher the team had. And to watch them struggle through that period between Kendall and getting Russell Martin, it just points out how important a catcher is to the success of any team in the majors.
Oh, exactly. Thursday Night Sports Talk. Go ahead.
I'd say even Kendall didn't handle a pitching staff like Russell Martin does.
Yeah, you're right there.
They're really not in the same. It's like Kendall was a great hitting catcher, but I don't think he handled a pitching staff like Russell Martin did. I watched Russell Martin play for the Yankees in 2009 when they won the World Series. The reason they won the World Series is because he controlled that pitching staff. He made everybody better. That's why Jeff Locke is pitching as well as what he is. Edison Volquez, you're getting those good innings out of those guys. Liriano coming back.
And and
what he's doing for a young Garrett Cole is invaluable for what that guy's going to have in his career because he's a budding superstar.
Yeah. Well, Volquez going this evening, I guess, against the Braves. Hey, let me talk about that a little bit. Is there a little pitching weak spot there as you look at the rotation in these upcoming games against the Reds and going into Wednesday night? And who do you think is going to throw on Wednesday night? Who starts in that rotation?
It depends on how they want to play this out to get the home field where things stand, because my preference at this point would be to have that one-game playoff starter be Garrett Cole. Yeah. And I think that's pretty much everybody's, idea there is to have that Wednesday game pitched by Garrett.
Right.
But there's this, opportunity. His turn in the rotation would come up on Sunday.
Okay.
So there's a big decision to be made there, depending on how things play out. They definitely want to have the home field.
All right.
And at that point, I think you start Cole in order to get the home field, which would probably turn it over. Geez, the thing about Liriano, and Chad, you can chime in on this because I've been so concerned here. He's been winning games here of late. However, the thing is, he's been throwing like 90, 100 pitches, and 54 of his pitches are strikes and 46 of them are balls, and you're just not doing the job you need to do when you're at like 54, 46. That's just not a good ratio of strikes to balls to expect to get very far in games and to expect to win games when you're doing that.
Let me address the Garrett Cole situation first. I truly believe there is no way on God's green earth he pitches on Sunday. And the reason why I don't think that is because they are in a playoff. Whether they play in San Francisco or in Pittsburgh, you want your number one throwing in that game.
Yeah.
And he is clearly their number one starter. So I think that he is playing in that playoff game no matter what. You're guaranteed a game, regardless. So Cole's not going on Sunday. He's done. He's shelved until they play the Giants. The way I think about Liriano is Liriano had, if I look back at his career, he had electric stuff in Minnesota. I mean, He was like the next budding superstar out there. Then he got decimated by an injury. And he came back and had a great season last year. But as a relative unknown, the league had not really seen much of him, and Russell handled him perfectly. So he came back and looked like a gem. This year, it's basically his second time around in the league, so teams have gotten a little bit more comfortable seeing with him. And to your point, Dave, he's just not flat out hitting his spots.
Yeah.
His pitches aren't going where he wants them to go. So, as the Pirates get into the postseason, if you're going to throw Cole in that first game, which I truly believe that that's what they're going to do, how does that set up your staff going into a 5-game series with the Washington Nationals, who have their number one?
Oh, yeah.
Rested up for game one. So, the wild card teams are kind of in this, to Dave's point, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. But you got to win to get to the next level. So I'm concerned about the Pirates making a deep run because I just don't think their pitchers match up well enough with the other team's pitchers.
Right.
That's where my concern is with them. I think they're doing fantastic, but that staff just doesn't match up with everybody else's staff.
Well, congratulations.
The other thing is, I'm sorry. The short series, even you make it through the one gamer. That's a following short series is a best of 5. So your pitching staff is automatically reduced just by the number of games. And you're going to try to turn things around as quickly as possible. There's an interesting wild card there again, and we're talking about now 3 reclamation projects that are doing the job for the Pittsburgh Pirates in their starting rotation, and that's Vance Worley.
Right.
It's also Francisco Liriano and Edinson Volquez. They're all reclamation projects that the Pirates are working on. And out of the reclamation projects, I mean, Volquez has had some pretty sharp games. And by wins, he would be the guy that you want to turn to as far as your first starter.
Right.
But you got to look at what Vance Worley's done. I mean, that's an outstanding story for him, too. And I think he's, I like his motivation. I like the fact that he came in there over the weekend after missing a start to Charlie Morton, who was unable to start last Sunday, and came in and just threw a gem against the Milwaukee Brewers on a Sunday afternoon in Pittsburgh.
Well, you know what? When I see Worley on the mound, he looks like the mad scientist with those glasses on. He reminds me of, who is it down in Miami, and that Joe Madden, sort of like those glasses, and there's a mystique to the guy, and he's got this attitude like, hey, see if you can hit this.
Travis Snyder has just hit another one out of the park against the Atlanta Braves.
Fantastic.
In the first inning.
Buccos.
Wow, what a shot.
It is now, 1-0 here as the Buccos and the Braves get underway. Hey, by the way, real quick, there seemed to be a lot of Bucco fans down there in Hotlanta, man, the other night. I saw Callahan's brother, I think it was not Joe, but Tom Callahan's other brother lives in Atlanta, and he was on screen on Fox at least, or on, I guess I should be saying Root Sports. He was on there at least 3 times with his kids the other night, man. All those guys from the Pittsburgh area that grew up in the Johnstown, Pittsburgh area down in Atlanta. So we saw a lot of black and gold down there the other night.
all I got to say, if your last name's Callahan, you're a camera magnet.
Yeah, you are. Yes, you are. Hey, anyhow, this is Thursday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Greg Banks along with Dave Shannon. Chad States joining us a little bit later on. It'll be Jimmy Ty, the fantasy football guy, as we cover the Bearcats, also fantasy football, the NFL, the Steelers, and a whole lot more coming up next here on a Thursday night. It's Thursday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net.
Kick off your appetite with great food from Original Italian Pizza in downtown Huntington, where Bearcat fans huddle up before and after the big game. OIP in downtown Huntington provides your taste buds with appetizers, dinners, pizzas, subs, and so much more. Stop by OIP in downtown Huntington for a sandwich, meal, and cold drinks 7 days a week, or call ahead for takeouts at 643-0665 or 643-0666. OIP in downtown Huntington with the best food and the lowest prices in town.
Welcome to Randy's Buy Low. This week's specials include Family Value Pack, Boneless Select New York Strip Steaks, $6.49 a pound. Hormel Always Tender Pork Sirloin Chops, $2.59 a pound. 8-pound bag, restaurant size, Green Giant Idaho potatoes, $2.99 each. Winter Green Seedless Grapes, $1.29 a pound. 12-ounce Fresh Express Garden Salad, buy one, get one free. And Russer Virginia Ham, $3.69 a pound. Find these and other great specials all this week here at Randy's Buy Low.
Stop on by and you know that you'll feel good when you go to Randy's Buy Low. You gotta go to Randy's Buy Low.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearms storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Restore the luster of your home or business now by calling Ted's Painting and Drywall at 814-641-0479. Ted's Painting and Drywall does quality exterior and interior painting, staining, faux finishing, trim work, and wall repair. Plus, Ted's Painting and Drywall can remove wallpaper and finish drywall for one room or the whole house. Ted's Painting and Drywall, a licensed contractor offering a 20% discount to seniors and 35% discount to churches. Book your work now at Ted's Painting and Drywall. Call 641-0479. It's the airnetwork.net Thursday night with Steve Austin or Greg Banks. Boy, even I get confused sometimes. Thursday night sports talk on the airnetwork.net. Dave Shannon, Chad States, Greg Banks, and joining us soon will be Jimmy Ty, the fantasy football guy. But we do have some football to talk about. I'm sorry, go ahead, jump in there.
I was going to say, I think you'll know who you are for sure. Just take your T-shirt, okay? Take it out. You may have it tucked in.
All right.
You know, take it out, pull it down, and down on the bottom there,
okay,
you'll see in handwriting, it'll say
Greg,
it'll say Greg Banks.
I'm not sure because there's none of my stuff has writing on it like that, Dave. You know, I wear everybody's logo. You remember all that stuff we got from Atlantic
Hey, I'll tell you
Broadband?
what. Guess what I have on tonight?
Oh, you don't have the sweatshirt on, do you? The hoodie?
No, I don't have the hoodie, but I do have my Atlantic Broadband production staff crew. Polo.
The polo
from
shirt.
Game of the Week times.
Yeah, and it had the big like crew on the back of it or something
Yep.
like. Okay, yeah,
Yep.
I still have that. Hey, Chad doesn't know, but when we were working Game of the Week, I was able to get like all kinds of stuff for the crew. You know, like polo shirts, sweatshirts. We got hoodies. We got like oh man, I still wear that winter jacket we got, Dave.
Oh, man, is that thing great.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
hey, we'll have to get some stuff for the Air Network and get the Thursday Night Sports Talk written all over it. How's that sound?
That'll work.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm working on it, man. I'm working
It's
on
a
it.
franchise.
I'll do a trade.
Yeah.
I'll do a trade. Hey, meanwhile, speaking of franchises and tradition and history, Huntington Bearcats, of course, go back a long way, and every week we talk about them because it's near and dear to my heart. It's my hometown, and Chad States has been the statistician, probably 18 to 20 years now. following the Bearcats faithfully. And even in the rough spots, you are there, Chad, giving the people
Every
the
week.
information. You never miss them, win, lose, or draw. And last week couldn't have been a good week because they lost to Clearfield. But it's always a tough team when you take on the Bison of Clearfield, losing 30-14. But there are probably a couple of improvements in last week's game, right? I mean, some bright spots.
There was. At halftime it was 21 to 14 at that point in time. And we scored on a 60-yard touchdown run by junior standout running back John Wagner, and also an 89-yard kickoff return by junior standout John Wagner. So he's pretty much been the catalyst for everything offensively for the Bearcats this week, or this year so far. So, in the second half, we kind of held Clearfield down a little bit. But the deal with what Clearfield brings to the table is, especially now since we've gone down to the AA ranks, is that they just have so much depth, and they can throw out some bigger bodies, and they traditionally just dominate the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what we saw last week. It wasn't for a lack of effort; it was just the fact that Clearfield was bigger and stronger and more physical than what Huntington was.
Right. Well, this week a little different story, perhaps, because Penns Valley doesn't bring a lot this year. Penns Valley Rams, I'm not going to say they have a down year, but they are having a year similar to Huntington, so that's kind of a nice matchup tomorrow night, you think?
Yeah, it should be. Huntington owns a 4-1 record overall against Penns Valley. I think it's a very good matchup for Huntington, especially in this stage of the ballgame with Huntington being a young team. Penns Valley's only win is over a struggling Baldwin area team, which surprises a lot of people around the area because the last couple of years, Baldwin has kind of been building up. So for Penns Valley to blitz them 28-6 in week 3, it's kind of a little bit of a good sign for Huntington as they enter kind of a very winnable stretch of ball games for the Bearcats.
Yeah, you had mentioned that.
The first 4.
Go ahead.
What's that?
I said, go ahead and mention some of that schedule remaining for them.
Yeah, they'll play Penns Valley this week, and then be at home for Ligonier Valley and Baldwin area, which are widely considered both winnable ball games. And then they jump into Phillipsburg Osceola, which is definitely a winnable ball game because the Mounties have been down for quite some time.
Okay.
They'll travel to Martinsburg for Central, which will be a very tough ball game. And then return to the area because it's never really an away game when you play Junior Valley there, and it's only a 15-minute drive. So, I can see Huntington really only losing potentially one of their last 6 ball games they've got on the schedule. So it's a very manageable stretch for Hootie and his young Bearcat squad.
Okay. Well,
is the Penns Valley game at Penns Valley, Chad, this week?
It is at Penns Valley, yes. Up on the hill, where there's a constant 30-mile-per-hour, I call it a hurricane-type wind, but there's always something blowing up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing about Penns Valley's field, though, it is well-maintained, and we have not had the kind of situations this fall where we had one of those real soakers where a game was being played and the field just gets chewed to shreds.
Right.
So I think that's a good thing for the Bearcats, too. They'll have a fast track to play on.
Well, that ought to be an interesting game.
Yep, it should be, and that's where I think that Huntington will definitely shine out. Is their running backs should really be able to get a lot of room to move against the Penns Valley defensive front. Last year, Penns Valley was really only in the ball game because their quarterback Stephen Tobias he was phenomenal. I mean, I don't know where he ended up going to school. I should look that up here before the end of the night. But he was a definite solid Division II type of quarterback, very, very good. So he kept them in the ball game. But with his graduation, so went really the Penns Valley Rams. So, and I am going to make a pause because Derek Jeter just hit one off the wall for a double in his final game at Yankee Stadium in his first at bat. So hats off to the Cats.
Well, there was some thought that there might be a threat of rain there in New York tonight, and that he might not play. But I guess all's clear as far as that's concerned. Then for the Yanks.
All is clear.
All right, fantastic. Huntington Bearcats, by the way, we wish them the best of luck as they get set to take on Penns Valley on the road tomorrow night. Of course, Chad State will have a review of that game coming up next week on Thursday Night Sports Talk, as he always does, as we do the Bearcat preview. And much more coming up, by the way. Jimmy Ty, the fantasy football guy, coming up next, along with Dave Shannon, Chad State. I'm Greg Banks, and this is Thursday Night Sports Talk.
Thanks for asking, but I'd rather not send you nude pictures. I'm camera shy. I already said no. know. Under my clothes, I'm a robot. My webcam is broken. I'm worried they'll get passed around school. I have a rash. I have nudophobia. I have lizard skin. I'm a vampire, so I don't show up in pictures anyways. Your badgering has really killed the mood.
When someone is pressuring you to do something you don't want to, how many ways can you say no before they get the message? Let us know at that'snotcool.com. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
If you're searching for a used vehicle, or perhaps a used boat for a leisurely trip on the lake, find them today online at penswoods.net. From things for sale or things to buy, the free classifieds at penswoods.net have it all. From houses for sale, apartments for rent, or even things to trade. penswoods.net is the region's largest site for free classifieds. Check it out today and make money or save money at penswoods.net.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
I'm coming home.
What does sacrifice mean to you? Is it giving up your time and energy to keep America safe? Is it putting yourself in harm's way to protect our nation's way of life? No? Then maybe it's giving up that third latte to take care of the heroes that do.
The VFW makes it easy to help. Just call 1-855-9-HELP-VET. That's 855-9-HELP-VET.
The VFW. No one does more for veterans.
This message brought to you by the Huntington VFW, Post 1754 on Penn Street. It's Thursday Night Sports Talk on the AirNetwork.net with Greg Banks in the studio. And joining us on remote tonight, we've got Dave Shannon in Elton, Chad States in Huntington, and Jimmy Ty, the fantasy football guy, all right here. By the way, Jimmy's from Johnstown, right here on the AirNetwork.net. How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing great, Craig. How you doing?
We're doing fantastic. You know, I've been on the line here with the guys for a few minutes now, talking about Pirate baseball, Bearcat football. And Dave, by the way, I did go fishing today out at this lake called Wilmore near Southport.
I'm familiar with that, yeah.
I fished that, and, you know, we're talking about how breezy it is there at Penns Valley tomorrow night. Oh, yeah. Butch and I ran into some problems on the shoreline today, man. It was a nice sunny day, and then all of a sudden it just got dark and cloudy. But, you know, something reminded me of you. As we traveled this one little creek, there was this Palomino trout in there. We were trying to throw a little bait towards him, and he wasn't biting. And I'm like, you know, if Dave were here, he gets coho salmon, and he gets, like, sharks and stuff. He could have got this, Butch.
I'll tell you what, they are one of the craziest fish. Sometime we need to do an outdoors segment. We could talk a little bit about fishing.
Oh, we'll work that in. I'm sure. But meanwhile, let's talk about fantasy football, because, Jimmy, I know you have been watching some of the hot stars, like, in fantasy football. And I'm going to throw out a name here real quick, and then we'll work backwards. Le'Veon Bell. I mean, he's got to be considered a starter on somebody's fantasy league team. I mean, do you have him?
No, I don't, but the funny thing is the guy I'm playing this week in my News 13 league has him.
Oh, okay. Smart
kid.
So
I'm like, I'm a little scared about that because because LaShawn McCoy got banged up last week.
Yes, he did.
He's my stud, and then the other stud running back, Zach Stacy, he has a bye week. So I'm like, what do I do? So I decided, I saw, even though the Buccaneers lost big time to the Falcons last week.
And we'll talk about them, too. Keep going.
Yeah, I decided, I need a running back, and the only one that I could see that was available in our league was Bobby Rainey at Tampa Bay.
Why didn't you grab Bell, man? I mean, what was that about? I guess you can't now, right?
I can't because he was drafted already.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me about some of the hot stars in your team or in the league this week, because we've been watching it rather closely as we try to learn more about this fantasy football stuff.
One of the hot stars right now is Kirk Cousins. He's taking over RG3 in Washington. He had over 400 yards last week against the Eagles in that shootout. He's a hot star. A name that people are going to be surprised to hear me say, Alfred Ballou of the Texans.
Who?
Alfred Blue of the Texans. He's taking over. He's taking over.
I'm Googling that right now.
He's taking over for Arian Foster since he's been injured. He's going to be like one of their main, like their third down back for Houston.
Did you guys write that down? Alfred Blue.
I'm on it.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted.
Blue went to LSU.
Oh, did he? Okay, Alfred Blue.
Alfred Blue.
LSU.
And he gets points because he rhymes.
Okay,
There's
yeah.
no other reason.
So you're picking him up this week, Jimmy? You picking this guy up? Oh,
No.
okay.
He was taken in the league. I wanted to take him, but he was taken in the league. That's why I had to get Bobby Rainey of Tampa Bay.
Now, is he a sleeper or is he a hot star?
He's a sleeper.
Oh, he's a sleeper. Okay, now let me go back a second here because I just found out this evening as I was Googling this fantasy football league stuff where they said, beware of Kirk Cousins. Now, listen. And the reason being is, okay, so he's taking over for RG3, and he'll play tonight against the New York Giants, okay, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But do you really think he's worthy of consideration, the fact that he only played one game so far? I mean, seriously.
Right now, if you have RG3 as your fantasy quarterback whenever you started your league,
all right,
you want to get Kirk Cousins because then once RG3 comes back, you could always drop him. Right there gives you like that Washington connection.
Well, if I don't have Big Ben on my roster, I'm putting Big Ben on my roster before I put Kirk Cousins on it.
But Kirk Cousins is, even though he had one good game, every game he played so far in the NFL, he had at least 300, 200-some yards passing.
Okay.
So I would draft Kirk Cousins of Washington right now because he is a hot player. It's just like Josh McCown last year.
Yeah.
Whenever he played for the Bears, everybody's like, who's Josh McCown?
Just like they said, who's Alfred Blue, but go ahead.
Yeah. Now, McCown, even though he's a starting quarterback down in Tampa, same thing's going to happen to Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Because of what's going on now in Washington. And I believe that even though Cousins said this is RG3's team.
Yes, it is.
It's all up to Gruden, the head coach, and Daniel Snyder.
Right.
Say, is RG3 going to be the starter or not?
Yeah.
And if Cousins has that hot hand, I don't see Washington ever turning away from him right now.
So in other words,
that's what I was going to ask you, Jimmy. Do you see that turning into a situation similar to what happened in Philly, where it just became, it was no longer Michael Vick's team?
Yeah.
Just because he came up and he was just that good.
I honestly think that if the Redskins even though they lost to the Eagles last week, Greg's second favorite team, by the way.
Exactly. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Even though they lost to the Eagles, if Cousins puts together a nice little win streak for Washington, I don't see them going away from Kirk Cousins.
So you think that RG3
he could be the next Nick Foles then?
So in other words, RG3 then becomes trade bait. Now let me ask you this, because this guy's only one game away from maybe being in the same situation up there in New York. I'm talking about the Jets now. I'm talking about their current quarterback who came out of Geno Smith, who came out of West Virginia. He's got some major problems, and there's a lot of talk on New York radio, which I listen to every day, that, you know what, he might have to sit down just to save Ryan's job. He might set him down after the 5th or 6th game and bring in Vic, man, just to kind of save face. You think that could happen?
I think that could happen because they really don't have a receiving core.
Right.
You have Eric Decker, who they signed in the offseason, and you have Jeremy Curley, who's also a fantasy stud.
Yeah.
As a sleeper. So if you need a receiver, go after Jeremy Curley. At least he's going to get some points for you. But getting back to that, Michael Vick has the experience, has the maturity of an NFL quarterback, where Geno Smith, this is only his second year.
Exactly.
In the league. So I can see them, if they lose like another game or two, then Rex is going to say, look, we're going to put Michael in right now. Geno, you can just watch from the sideline and see how Michael does.
Well, my problem with that is it becomes a scenario like Sanchez and Tebow again. And I think if Rex even makes that move, I think he's on his way out, man. I seriously think that. Now, let me change the subject a little bit, guys. Giants, Redskins gone tonight. Let's go round robin. Dave, who do you pick in that game? Give me a prediction. That's the Giants taking on the Redskins tonight, NFL football.
I'm going to go with the Redskins in this game. I just see the Giants as not being the Giants of old. I think there's some demons there that Eli Manning is fighting, And I think, and maybe even Tom Coughlin at that, as far as that goes. So, you know, I'm definitely riding the Redskins train.
Okay, any score on that game?
Let me go with Redskins 28-14.
All right, Chad, now same thing. Redskins, Giants tonight. Tom Coughlin's job is at stake, and Eli Manning has to learn a new offense. How do you see this game working out tonight?
I'm going to go 30-7 Redskins. I think Kirk Cousins is the real deal.
Okay.
I think RG3 winds up back in his home state before this is all said and done. Next year, he'll be playing for Dallas.
Okay.
Because I think Kirk Cousins is the man. This guy is smart.
Yeah.
He's a kinesiology major at Michigan State. He gave one of the best speeches a student-athlete has ever given at a Big Ten conference, if we remember a couple years ago. This guy says all the right things. So, you know, whether he truly believes that it's RG3's team or not, he says the right things. He puts himself in position to succeed all the time. 30-7 Redskins tonight. Couldn't be prouder of a Big Ten alum going after it.
Okay, Jimmy, you're a Pitt grad and kinesiologist. Tell us. What do you think about the Giants and Redskins tonight?
I feel that the Redskins defense is going to pressure Eli. Eli gets nervous in the pocket whenever he gets pressured.
Yeah.
I see at least 3 to 4 sacks by the Redskins front line.
Mm-hmm.
Eli's going to throw a whole bunch of, at least 2 interceptions tonight. Redskins are going to win. Kirk Cousins is on a hot streak with yardage and touchdowns.
Okay.
Deshaun Jackson's going to have a breakout performance on Thursday Night Football. Final score, Redskins 42, Giants 10.
Wow, Jimmy.
Attaboy, Jimmy.
Man, oh man, I'm not riding that horse, but hey, good job. Meanwhile, that game comes up in about an hour. This is Thursday Night Sports Talk on the AirNetwork.net. Greg Banks, along with Dave Shannon, Chad States, and Jimmy Ty. Now, let's get into the meat of NFL as we know it. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I didn't stay up for the game on Sunday. I got to be quite honest. I missed most of it because I was on the road and was tired. But I hear that was a good game. But we had some injuries, and as a result of the injuries, they now are picking people out of Walmart to come and play this week. I believe he was...
James Harrison was working at Walmart?
Well, I don't think at Walmart, but he was helping his kids, like, what do they call them, Cub Scouts troop, and he was, like, shuttling the kids back and forth to soccer, and he was even a crossing guard. Well, okay, so what happened, man? What happened, Dave? I didn't watch the game. Chad, somebody tell me.
Guys trying to make plays, guys getting into situations. It's the nature of the game. You put the pads on and the helmet, and you go out and play the game. And it is such a violent game. You know, I think, and I'm not making any excuses for these guys and the violence that they've been caught in. There's a point in your mind where you got to say, yeah, I do that on the football field, but I don't do that off the football field. So I'm not making an excuse for them. But taken at its, what it is a very violent game played at a high speed.
Yeah.
And just the nature of it, there's going to be you put the pads on and the helmet on and you go out and play it. And there's every week you could be out there for 2 plays, and that could be the end of your season.
Well, I understand the violent side of it, but I mean, in that particular game against the Panthers, I mean, was the offense off? The defense was off? I mean, what happened, Chad? Did you watch the game? Could you assess what happened there?
And here's what I thought. The second half, Todd Haley finally gave in and said, you know what? Let's run an offense that's geared for Big Ben. And they ran a very quick-paced, lots of short passes, sprinkled in with runs for a fantastic Le'Veon Bell that kept the Panther defense completely off balance.
Okay.
So, to me, it was more of an offensive philosophy switch. Is what caused that blowout more than anything else. So, and the good thing is the win couldn't have come at a better time because the the Steelers play the Buccaneers and the Jaguars, which is in essence 2 bye weeks in the NFL coming up. So, it's a great way for them to get on track, beating what many considered was a top 5 football team in the NFL, and totally just decimating them in the second half.
Jimmy, so they were kind of playing an up-tempo kind of second half there, but at that time I assumed that it was probably too late, too little. So how do you view this fact that James Harrison returns? I think they're going to pay him $500,000 for the remainder of the season. You think they'll do okay this weekend against the Buccaneers? Although he probably won't even play, I imagine.
I think they'll do okay against the Buccaneers. I see Harrison getting in for a few plays, just like Brett Kiesel did whenever he came back
to
play. But the injuries to Ryan Shazier, who was their outstanding stud rookie they drafted 15. I believe wasn't he 15th overall?
Yeah.
In this year's draft. With him being injured, the defense, Ike Taylor being injured, they're going to be moving around the defensive backs a lot. But I think the high-tempo offense, if Haley gives in to Big Ben and says, Ben, you run the offense, you run the high-tempo, I think
that's
we'll be
the
okay.
whole key. That's the whole key, Jimmy, is that he's willing to let Ben do that because even, the one thing that I actually got up and walked away from the TV. One of the first drives in the second half, they're eating up yardage going down the field because they're doing no huddle. Everything is fine. They get to the 4-yard line, and I'm sorry, and I've talked to coaches about this. Most coaches would agree with me. I'm going to continue to run at you with that play that type of play until you prove to me that you can stop me. Until that point, I'm going to continue to run it. Why in the hell would you go down the field for the entire drive, and suddenly, when it's first and goal from the 4, you want to go back to doing a huddle? That just, honest to God, I'm screaming at my TV, walked away, went and made a pot of coffee. It's like, take your 3 points, Haley, and go back to the bench. Because that's what you do every damn time you get into the red zone. And you screw up.
Well, I know you're a bowler. You do that Wednesday night thing. So when you're rocking and you're into a nice groove, you don't change up when you get close to the end of the game, do you?
Absolutely not.
So, you don't change your tempo. So why do the Steelers emphatically, they're doing that basically every time they get down in the red zone. And I'm glad I missed that because, you know what, I had taken your coffee and threw it through my television. Seriously.
I'll tell you what, he's so frustrating.
Yeah.
He is so frustrating. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Sorry, Dave. But the thing is, you have to also look at the special teams. Look, they recovered the guy muffed the punt on kickoff, or I believe it was a punt. He muffed it. They covered in the end zone. Sweden hit every one of his field goals. So the special teams is also. Everybody talks about offense and defense, but the other third version of football is special teams, and special teams is really contributing to the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's something sorely been missing there for, although they've been getting better as the years have gone by. But, boy, I'll tell you what, it was like you just hated to see the Steelers either kicking off or punting. How many scores here over the last, 3-4 years did they give up on kickoffs and punts? Having the other team run it the whole way back.
Well, man,
they're doing a much better job at that now.
Yeah, Thursday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net with the guys, Dave Shannon, Chad States, along with Jimmy Ty and Greg Banks, and we're talking about the Steelers. Chad, give me your prediction. This week they're taking on the Buccaneers. Hey, come on. They could also take on, Bearcats might have a better chance. What do you think against the Buccaneers?
Yeah, I don't even know if the Buccaneers are going to score a point. That team is in such disarray. They're back to the late 1970s. A Buccaneers team. They're the Yuccaneers now at this point. So I see Pittsburgh in a romp. I'm going to call it 30-3.
Yeah, they remind me of the what was his name? John McKay days, man.
John
My
McKay.
God, yeah. Jimmy, what are you calling in this game? Buccaneers and Steelers coming up on Sunday.
I think it'll be a little bit closer. Maybe like a 24-17, 24-10 score for Pittsburgh.
All right, the guy that found Alfred Newman. I'm sorry, what was
Alfred
that?
Blue.
Alfred Blue, okay. Dave.
Alfred Newman.
That was another guy from Mad Magazine. Dave, what's your prediction?
I'm going to go Steelers 35-17.
All right, I'm sorry about that. But listen, I'm looking at this schedule right now, and that's why I'm laughing, because they have the Buccaneers, the Jaguars, in the next 2 weeks. And I know the Jags aren't doing all that great either, but I guess you can't look ahead because, again, like you said, hey, just run the no huddle, man, all the entire game. Where are these guys out? This is where you practice on Sunday, man.
Yeah, and, the teams now have managed to – here's one thing to me as a football fan over the years that I've watched develop, how much the defenses have become specialized.
Yeah.
And if you catch them with the wrong defensive pairings on the field, boy, you really hustle into that no huddle because then their substitutions, it creates such confusion And if you get the slower guys out there in the field,
right,
man, can you really rack up the yardage and the points?
Exactly. Chad, you gave us your prediction, Dave, and Jimmy gave us your prediction. It's Thursday night sports talk on the airnetwork.net as the Steelers get set to take on the Buccaneers on Sunday. Hey, by the way, if anybody wants to, if you're listening out there live to our broadcast and you want to just chime in on Skype, and if you know how to figure that out, all you have to do is contact us at Greg Banks 3. I think that's the handle I use, Greg Banks 3. And you know what? We'll accept what is it that we accept, Dave? I guess they have to ask, request, like, to get in, and then we just put them on the air. Now,
just go ahead and ring our phone up, and it'll make noise, and we'll hear the noise, and then we'll decide where we go from there.
But I'm going to tell you what, if I see an Alfred Blue coming up on here, I'm not accepting that call. Because I don't know Alfred, so I'm going to have to do some research on him first. So anybody coming up with some handle like Alfred Blue, you're not getting on. All right. Hey, coming up, Penn State, Pitt, we've got the Penguins and lots more. It's Thursday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Time starts now. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat? Where can you find the answers to these questions?
Car crashes are one of the leading killers of U.S. children. Many of those deaths could be prevented by making sure that kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Need printing services done with quality, on time, and at a reasonable price? Then stop by Images Print Shop in downtown Huntingdon, where they can help you design and print brochures, business forms, business cards, newsletters, flyers, and so much more. Images Print Shop is your hometown print shop and web hosting service dedicated to excellent and quality service at affordable prices. See what Images Print Shop can do for you online at imagesprintshop.com or call us weekdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 643-1796. Restore the luster of your home or business now by calling Ted's Painting and Drywall at 814-641-0479. Ted's Painting and Drywall does quality exterior and interior painting, staining, faux finishing, trim work, and wall repair. Plus, Ted's Painting and Drywall can remove wallpaper and finish drywall for one room or the whole house. Ted's Painting and Drywall, a licensed contractor offering a 20% discount to seniors and 35% discount to churches. Book your work now at Ted's Painting and Drywall. Call 641-0479.
Let her go.
You guys need a little culture. That's why I throw in a little jazz from time to time. It's Thursday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Welcome to it. I am Greg Banks in the studio along with Dave Shannon on remote in Altoona. Chad States in Huntingdon, and Jimmy Ty, the fantasy football guy in Johnstown. Glad to have you guys along again as we get ready to wrap things up. But before we do that, in the next 12 minutes or so, let's talk some college sports, shall we? Let's talk about those Penn State Nittany Lions getting set to open up their Big Ten schedule against Northwestern. But more importantly, and I don't want to touch on this too long, guys, but you watched the game. It was UMass. And they probably had a chance to improve on some things. I believe somebody said they would run the ball, and that's one of the things they did on Saturday. Do you agree with the offensive strategy on Saturday, guys?
You know, the one thing I liked about that game was they came out, and at the beginning of that game, I'm not going to accuse. This is not meant as any kind of accusation. In case anyone hears this and is a close friend of Christian Hackenberg, he came out and looked like he had a hangover. I have never seen the young man throw the ball that poorly as he did in the first quarter. That being said, they did not block well, the offensive line, in the first quarter. And then it was as though, and, I had to give head coach James Franklin and his staff all the credit here. It was like a switch was flipped, and suddenly they became an NFL team in the second quarter and maintained that the whole way through. And their goal was to run, and eventually they did. They were able to do it. But I will say this much. Belton is such an explosive back, and Zach Swinack is just like Zach for as big a part of that team as he has been over the past couple of seasons, is definitely taking a back seat to Belton.
Well, those two guys, Chad, had a great Saturday against UMass, and one of the things I really thought they did well, defense looked like they were the defense of old at Penn State. Do you agree, Chad?
Yeah, they did. And Penn State walked away with that game, getting out of it exactly the way they should have. One, blowing out a very bad UMass team. So, that's a good thing. They did what they were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. They ran the football. Honestly, I think the best running back out of the bunch is Akeel Lynch. I think he's best suited for that offense, more so than what Belton and Zwinack are at this point in time. And that's just sight seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Thirdly, they walked out injury-free relatively, which is what they needed to do, too. So, all three phases of the game, you could put a check mark to. Let's face it, guys, we knew it. That was not going to be a good competitive game coming out of it. Yeah. With that said, Bob Shoop's defense it's a gem right now. He's getting great rotation on his defensive line. His defensive backs are coming out with great stops, and they're playing hard, and he's scheming correctly.
Yeah, exactly. As I mentioned before, Jimmy, opening Big Ten schedule against Northwestern this week, Penn State Nittany Lions. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, they might have a chance to make it to the big show at Lucas Stadium on December the 6th. I'm not overlooking the rest of their schedule, but do you think Penn State could be in the hunt for a playoff bid this year?
I think they would be in a playoff bid
or at least the
now.
championship. I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the Big Ten championship. If you look at their schedule, they have Northwestern, they have Ohio State. Everybody highly praised Ohio State.
Yeah,
and they're not that good this year. Northwestern is Northwestern. You have Michigan, who isn't really that good. The only good team they have on their schedule is the last game of the season, and that's Michigan State.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can see them making the Lucas Oil Stadium.
Hey, what about the rest of you guys? Give me a prediction on this week's game, Penn State, Northwestern. Dave, I'll start with you.
They're at home, and I think they continue with the momentum they built against Massachusetts, and they end up winning this one. I'm going to say Penn State wins it 28-10.
Okay. What about you, Chad?
I'm going to go 24-17. I think Northwestern's going to play with a lot of heart in the second half.
Yeah.
And come back. And Penn State struggled a little bit in the second half this year against some teams. So I think it's a little bit closer. I think that Penn State's overall athleticism from their starters is better than what Northwestern's going to bring to the table. Okay. So I think they're going to win, and I don't think it's going to be a challenge, but I do think that Northwestern tightens it up a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, what do you think, Jimmy, on this week's game between Northwestern and Penn State?
I don't know. I'm going to go against everybody. I'm going to say, even though I said earlier that Northwestern is just Northwestern,
yeah,
I just think that they will come into Beaver Stadium and shock Penn State, but Penn State will win. Northwestern's going to give them a tougher game than what they're expecting, but Penn State will win, but it's going to be a close game, 28-24 Penn State.
All right, so you think Northwestern's coming in, they're going to come in fired up this week then, huh?
Yeah.
All right, everybody turn speakers down. Here we go. Listen, let me ask you this, Jimmy. Pitt lost to Iowa last week. James Conner, the nation's leading rusher, 699 yards, and he's tied with 9 touchdowns to lead the NCAA. Now, what do you think will happen this week as they take on Akron on Saturday?
He'll get some more touchdowns. He'll get it over 100 yards again.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I see that's wrong with Pitt right now is they have talent. They have a lot of talented players on offense.
Yeah.
But Boychuk only looks at Tyler Boyd.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Anytime he's in a pinch, or if somebody's open, he'll look for Tyler Boyd and just throw the ball down to Tyler Boyd and hope his athleticism would catch the ball.
Well, don't you think
that's going to hurt? That's going to hurt Pitt in the long run.
Okay, so you're saying because Boyd is a primary receiver, but isn't that the case in most instances, Chad, that you're going to look for that main guy that you can know goes up and gets the ball? I mean, let's face it.
Yeah, and specifically in the college realm, Hackenberg has Jesse James. That's his safety valve. So, and for him to use Boyd, and let's face it, Boyd's one of the best receivers in the entire nation as a sophomore.
Right.
I mean, this guy has first round written all over him. So I'm not surprised by that. What I was disappointed on Saturday was their defense didn't look that good. C.J. Beathard came in and just kind of took over an Iowa team that was dead and drove them down for 3 or 4 straight scores.
Right.
So I was really disappointed in the way their secondary reacted to a new quarterback coming into the game.
Okay.
And Beathard was the backup. He was the backup quarterback for Iowa.
He won't be now.
I think his role has changed.
Yeah, so let's get a prediction on that Pitt Akron game. Dave, what do you got on that?
I see Pitt doing well there. I mean, having watched Akron against Penn State, they played Penn State pretty well. But I think Pitt gets a learning experience out of the game against Iowa, and it moves them forward. And I think they end up doing well in that game and winning by a score of 24-14.
Jimmy, what's your prediction on this game?
Connor's going to have 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
Boyd's going to have another touchdown. Wojciech's going to have another touchdown. Pitt's going to romp over. Pitt's going to win 42-17.
Against Akron. Okay.
Boy, I'll tell you what, Jimmy must be an over-under player.
Yeah, he is. That's what I'm thinking, man.
He's really big into the big numbers.
He's taking those points. Yes, he is. Hey, what do you think, Chad? What will happen in this game between Pitt and Akron on Saturday? By the way, which is on ESPN3, which I don't get, but we'll explain that later. Go ahead.
I think Pitt rolls in this game. I'm going to predict that this game is over by the end of the third quarter. James Conner's going to be over. I'm going to say he's going to have a 200-yard day. He's going to near 220 yards on the day through 3 quarters because I just think the guy is that good. And Pitt's going to roll in this. I'm going to say it's going to be 36-10.
Well,
hey guys, do you think that loss to Iowa couldn't come at a better time? I mean, it's kind of a wake-up call for the Panthers.
Yeah, exactly.
And the kind of thing that could really propel them toward the end of the season then.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
I do. I'm just worried about what I saw out of that secondary. That was that was pretty scary against an Iowa team that just isn't that deep offensively.
Well, you know, if Connors does have 200 yards this week, he's already broken, I believe it was Tony Dorsett's record for the 4 games or something with the most yards. I mean, he ends up breaking all kinds. This guy's only about less than 300 yards away from 1,000 yards, and it's only the 4th game. I mean, that's unreal. It's crazy stuff.
He might be sitting in New York with a group of 4 other guys come the end of the year. He's that good.
Wow. Yeah. And he's only a sophomore?
Yep. And the last time that happened for Pitt, that a player out of New York was Larry Fitzgerald.
Exactly. Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald.
Sean McCoy didn't even get invited to the Heisman race.
Right, exactly. A couple of minutes to go here on the Thursday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Let me throw this out real quick, Dave. I know you're a Penguins fan. Preseason is on. They're taking on Minneapolis, I believe, tonight, or Minnesota Wild this evening. There's a couple of kids on this team that could emerge as netminders for the Penguins this year behind Fleury. And I just happened to be watching a couple of games the other night. I think Zatkoff is one kid's name. He'll be in this evening.
Yeah, Zatkoff started quite a few games for the Penguins last year. And, they worked him in, well, I shouldn't say quite a few, but they worked him in about, every 10 games or somewhere in that area. And he became the guy after Vokun had the problems, the health problems last year. So I like Jeff Zatkoff.
Well, who's this other kid that they're talking about so much? I think his name is Grice or something. They said he looked good in goal like on Tuesday night, I believe it was. And that everybody's clamoring about this guy. Seriously. Have you seen him yet?
I have not seen him yet. These early games are kind of tough to get now. For the fans that want to, they'll be back on Root Sports come Monday against Minnesota. And but I think the games, you can catch a couple here yet on Pittsburgh CW over the next couple of nights.
And I think NBC Sports has been airing some of those games as well.
Yeah. So, but that being said, you know what? I think anything to drive Marc-Andre Fleury to get him focused is such a big plus. And also the team, you get a team maybe sometimes that gets behind a goalie, and it can make a big difference. I watched bits and pieces of the first night's contest against the Red Wings.
Yeah.
And Bo Bennett was the lone goal scorer. But I'll tell you what a talented player.
Yeah.
To see him, I really hope he gets a full season in this year. And Bo Bennett may be, I look at him and it's like, I don't think Sidney Crosby ever leaves Pittsburgh. I think Mario Lemieux ends up leaving the Penguins franchise to Crosby in his will.
Oh, no doubt.
But I think people talk about Malkin from time to time.
Yeah.
And Bo Bennett could eventually be an answer to, we love Evgeny and he does a lot for the team, but Evgeny's still a young man too.
Yeah.
And I think as time goes on, maybe some of his demons will get exercised. But I'll tell you what, Bo Bennett's not a bad guy to go to the center to head up your second line.
Well, I'm looking at his injury update, and I see Crosby and Kunitz cleared to play maybe Saturday following their injuries. Malkin, by the way, he hasn't skated yet, and Dupuis may play in the last two preseason tilts. So, you got to realize it's preseason. They just got rid of, 35 guys they sent down or sent out. Mm-hmm. So they got to kind of weed it out, you know what I'm saying? And they're giving some guys some ice time, and there are some names that, hey, quite frankly, we're not even going to see these guys again because they'll get sent down to the AHL or some other bogus league, the NAHL, which plays in Johnstown.
Tomahawk.
Yeah, you get sent down that far, man, you may as well go back to Little League hockey or something. That's what I'm saying. But anyhow, hey, I'm looking forward to the Penguins season, and hopefully you guys are too.
Hey, and I owe an apology to the Pittsburgh Pirates. I was down on them. Quite a bit when we first started the program.
Okay.
And I really got to tip my cap to Clint Hurdle. You've done a hell of a job. You have done a hell of a job. I admire that man a lot.
Well, we accept that apology on behalf of Chad States, who's been trying to get you to say that for 3 weeks. And you keep trying to pull him in. Because, hey, isn't that right, Chad?
I tried, Dave. I tried. I made the Joe Namath guarantee last week.
Hey, well, listen, guys, thank you very much for another edition of Thursday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Let's do it again. Everybody got a great weekend planned other than football or anything? Jimmy?
I got to go pick my daughter up in Hershey on Sunday.
Okay, what do you got, Chad? Soccer?
I got some kid stuff, and I'm going to go watch the Juniata College Eagles play this weekend.
Yeah, they've been winning some games too, huh?
Yeah, their Franklin and Marshall is coming to town. Their quarterback, their dad is actually Trevor Henry, who's from Huntington, so it ought to be interesting.
Fantastic. And Dave, you're going to go up the Erie and maybe catch some fish or what?
No, I'm going to the Victors go the spoils. Every once in a while, I do keep a few. A friend of mine really knows how to cook them well and deep fry them. It's a big-time trout fish fry coming up this weekend.
Oh.
All right, we'll enjoy that.
You're the winner.
Yeah, and think
you're the winner. You're the winner.
Well, think about your friends, man, while you're there, okay? All right, thanks again, guys, for being on Thursday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. That wraps it up. We'll see you next Thursday night. Thank you again.